Hello, dear second year students. Welcome to English classroom. This is Srikan, Assistant Professor of English. Today, we'll take up a topic from second year, third semester syllabus. So, our topic is a small, simple poem. Let's go and see what is the poem that we are taking up today. So, our poem is An Irish Airman Foresees His Death. So, this poem is written by an Irish poet, William Butler Yeats, W.B. Yeats. So the title itself indicates what is the content of this poet. So Airman is the pilot who fights war in the skies, is a war pilot. Foresees, that means he anticipates, he knows that he is going to meet his death. So death is also there in the title. So you can understand something out of this title. An Irish airman, Irish pilot who sees his death, which is going to come in the near future. So let's see something about the poet W.B. Yeats. So you can see in this picture W.B. Yeats is a very famous and leading 20th century poet and a great literary figure of 20th century. And he was born in Dublin, Ireland. So Dublin is the capital city of Ireland. Ireland, you might be knowing, is a part of Great Britain. Ireland, Scotland, and England. These three countries make Great Britain. And his lifespan was from 1865 to 1939. That means he lived about 74 years. And he founded an institution called Irish Literary Society, which has its headquarters in London and Dublin as well. And is famous for his symbolism. Symbolism is the tool which he uses very effectively in his writings and poems. So symbol is some image, he creates some image in his poetry. Generally, it conveys a much greater meaning beyond the words, beyond the expressions that a writer tries to express. So he's a very good user of symbols in his poems, in all his poems. And his some of the famous poems are like this. So one poem is very famous poem, The Second Coming, you know, which was written in yes 1920. The poem is about Christ, Jesus Christ coming or taking birth again on the planet Earth when the circumstances, situations on Earth are totally deteriorated. So it talks about that. And another poem is Easter 1916. 96 is also part of the title. And another important poem is Sailing to Byzantium. Yes. And this is my favorite poem during my college days, Lake Isle of Innisfree. There are so many other poems. And he won Nobel Prize in Literature in 1923. So he's a Nobel laureate, such a great poet he is. And he translated Upanishads from India, which were originally written in Sanskrit, and he translated into English. And he wrote foreword for Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali in English. This is a brief introduction about this poet. Let's move on to the theme of the poem. Yes. So as you can guess, the theme of the poem is death on the battlefield. So generally, there is an anecdote which is connected to this poem. He has a friend by name Lady Gregory, and her only son died during the First World War. His name is Major William Gregory. So he wrote a poem, generally why young men take to war. What is the motivation behind their going for war? Generally during Second World War and First World War, most of the European young men joined war. And he says that the general consequence of war is they will meet their death fighting the war. That is inevitable. So he says that the death that they face in the war that do not have any consequence. No glory is attached to them. They generally go to the war not because they are motivated by any feelings of patriotism, or they are not fighting for some country. They are defending some country. They're fighting against some country. They don't have any feelings of hatred towards enemy country, but they have other reasons. Even the death which they face do not have any significance. Their death is not celebrated by the people. It is not glorified anymore. But recently, a Telangana citizen who died fighting the war or fighting, defending our borders in the China-Indo borders. There was escalation of tensions. But that is not the case anywhere. During the First World War, most of the European young men fought war and they lost their lives. So, what are the things, what are the feelings that the poet wants to express through his poem? Are you interested? Let's go and see. What does the poem say? So, this is a poem, as you can see on the screen. An Irish airman foresees his death. So, I'll read out the poem for you. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight, I do not hate. Those that I guard, I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen, Kiltartans poor. No likely end could bring them loss or leave them happier than before. Nor law, nor duty bade me fight, nor public men, nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I balanced all, thought all to mind, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed waste of breath, a waste of breath, the years behind. In balance with this life, this death. So, guys, this is the poem written by a poet W.B. Yeats, an Irish airman foresees his death. This is a small poem of 16 lines actually. So, let's see what are the feelings that the poet wants to express through this poem. So, I'll try to explain to you, right? So, what the poet is saying, I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. So, the speaker, who is none other than the war pilot, is saying that I know for certain that I shall meet my fate. What is the fate? Is going to die. Is going to die for sure in a short time, sometime or the other. Okay, somewhere among the clouds above, by fighting the war in the skies, is going to die. You know it. He knows it for certain. Those that I fight, I do not hate. Those that I guard, I do not love. The country for which I am fighting, I don't love that country. The country for which I am fighting against, I do not hate. I don't have any animosity or friendship or any patriotism towards one country or the other. Any hatred towards one country or the other is insignificant. Just fighting the war, that's it. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen Kiltartan's fruit. And it belongs to some remote part of Ireland. So it doesn't have anything to do with the war. He's fighting for some country and fighting against some other country. But his native country is something else. Okay, that doesn't have any effect on his people and his country. Next. No likely end could bring them loss or leave them happier than before. Whatever is the result, no likely end, whatever is the consequence, whatever is the result of the war, whichever country might win or lose, that is not going to affect his own people. They are not going to gain anything or lose anything. They are not going to become more happier or less sorrowful, less sad, less than happy. They are like that. They are going to remain like that, whatever is the result of the war. Yes. Nor law, nor duty bade me fate, nor public men, nor cheering crowds. So, what is the purpose he took to war? These are not the reasons for which he is fighting the war. Not because he is fighting the war for his country, not because he is fighting against some enemy, and also public men. Okay, if he fights the war in the skies, even the leaders, public leaders, political leaders, they are not going to reward him in any way, and not cheering crowds. If he wins the war, the people will not clap for him. They don't give a pat on his back. Simply is fighting. So why he had joined the war? Air Force. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. The only one excitement. Okay, one excitement from the bottom of his heart. The only impulse. What is that? What is the reason? What is the sole purpose of fighting the war? Now he's telling in the following lines. Okay, the one this reason. That's the reason he joined Air Force and fighting the war in the skies. That is in the skies war. The tumult is the war here. That's why he took a decision to fight a war. That's what the poet is describing as the tumult in the skies. Okay. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed waste of breath. A waste of breath the years behind. So what I did was before joining Air Force and fighting the war, I balanced my life, both my past and the future. When they juxtaposed both past and the future on the same platform, it seemed that his past life was very, very dull. It was not colorful. And if we measured his future life, even future was very, very colorless. It's not going to be colorful. The future is not going to yield any good results. The future seemed to be not offering very any good rewards for him. It is also equally dull. Both his past and future are going to be dull. So that's why he measured very, very scrupulously, very, very carefully. And what remains with him is the present time. So he want to live his present time, present life in an exciting way, in a very adventurous way. And he thinks that his past was insignificant and his future is going to be insignificant. So what is going to do? He must do something in about his present. So he took a decision to fight the war. He knows that he foresees, he predicts death is going to come certainly one day or the other in the war. So he joined Air Force. This is the sole impulse to go to the war. Next, in balance with this life, this death. In balance with this life, this death. So he's balancing both life and death. Life is dull, death is going to be insignificant anyway. He's not going to get any garlands because he's not fighting war for his country. He's not going to be treated as war lord. He's not going to be treated as a national hero, just like we did in our country. No. So balanced. So his life was more meaningless and purposeless. Death is going to be anyway meaningless and purposeless. So he's inviting some kind of thrill in his life, some kind of excitement in his life, adventure in his life. So he boldly took a decision to go to war and fight the war in the skies, have some happy moments, and finally die happily. Anyway, death is not going to be very, very insignificant and meaningless in the eyes of the society, in the eyes of the people, in the eyes of the political leaders. Even if he's going to die also, his own people will not mourn for him. So what is the message of this poem? Any young man who wants to join armed forces, air force, a military, before taking the decision, think twice before joining air force. because someday or the other, the death is lurking on your head. That's why there is also a message to the young people. If you're really, if you're really motivated by the feeling of patriotism, yes. If you're prepared, totally prepared that your death will be glorified, then yes. If your death is not going to be glorified by the people, if your death is not glorified by the, your countrymen, if your martyrdom is not going to be recognized by the people, then don't go to war, friend. So that is the poem. That's a message the poet W.B. Yeats conveying to us. Okay. So there are some expression I want to explain this poem. I know that I shall meet my fate. Okay. What does it mean? I've already explained to you. So I means the speaker. Who is the speaker? The pilot. The war pilot. The pilot knows that he will meet his death in the skies. He knows that he's going to die until Kiltartan Cross, a small countryside in Ireland. It's a small part of this country, Ireland, and he doesn't belong to the country he's fighting for or against. That means he's fighting war for some England, some other fighting against some other country, but his country Ireland is no way involved in this. I am totally indifferent. I am totally disconnected to the two warring factions, two warring countries. And tumult is nothing but war. Generally, the tumult meaning a loud and confused noise in the marketplace. There is some people, okay, shouting loudly. There is a lot of confusion, a lot of people, a mob gathers over there. That is called tumult. Here it is war, tumult in the clouds. That's what the poet says. And about the final line, balance with this life, this death. What does it mean? Both life and death are equally meaningless for the airman, for the pilot. When you balance, both death and life are equally meaningless. So this is the poem, An Irish Airman Foresees His Death, written by a famous 20th century poet, W.B. Yeats. Thank you all guys for listening to this, and I'll come with another interesting topic in my next video. Thank you all.